Hi friends, today is an exciting video because yes, as you probably have seen from the thumbnail, we have acquired Danessa Myricks' newly released Lightwork 6, but this video is special as the palette was gifted to me by a subscriber and she knows who she is, and I had told her that I would shout her out in this video. Allow me to explain. Our fellow beauty bae reached out over Instagram to ask if I was going to review Lightwork 6, and I explained that not at the moment because I have been gravitating towards the neutrals, and with saving money and not being as impulsive as I have been, knew that I was not going to use this palette to its fullest potential. And not that I didn't realize its beauty and just dazzling qualities, as you probably have seen also. And she was like, listen, I can get it for you. And I was like, when I answered her, I had no idea that was going to be her response. I mean, it wasn't even in the sphere of possibility in my mind. So this video is sponsored by a subscriber, and without her generous gift, and I'm just completely humbled by her actions that we have this video today. And I eventually was going to buy it. I just was not going to buy it right away, but I appreciate how she had wanted to purchase it for me at this time so it can still remain in the realm of interest for many of you. But again, I had to give her a shout out at the beginning of the video. Thank you so much for the gift, and I told her I'll get right to work when Lightwork 6 arrives with the B-roll, okay? Now, this was a highly anticipated release from Danessa Myricks because I think previously, as we've seen from her Groundwork palette, I think one of her most innovative products, in addition to her blurring balm. I hold that product highly from the brand, just again with innovation in the complexion category. And when we received Groundwork, especially Blooming Romance, that was one of the highlights for me. But I truly think Danessa has ended the year with a bang with Lightwork 6, and just unbridled excitement when we saw that this palette not only contained 9 finishes, but it is entirely magnetic. Not only is it magnetic, as you see from the large case, the individual palettes are removable from the magnetic base. And Danessa had explained when she heard one of the negatives about her larger Lightwork palettes, despite how beautiful they are huge and they are heavy and tougher to travel with. So Danessa wanted to come up with a system that easily can be integrated with the products that she already has in her brand, but allow the user to bring these beautiful finishes along for the ride in a way that, yes, you can take the centerpiece from the top, because it is also magnetic, a mirror, and slap it on right on top. And now you have a smaller version of the larger Lightwork 6 to take along for the ride. Absolutely genius, and what a way to again take in what she heard from her consumer base. Like, listen, we love your formulas, Danessa, but the palette itself, my goodness, I don't want to pack that thing. Not only can you bring one, but you can bring all, because they are all magnetic and you can stack them as is. And the palette also comes with a pocket here. You could squeeze it on the sides and slip your mini Lightwork 6 for the bag. And then you could even take palettes, or pans rather, from the Groundwork palette and slap them on this palette, because sure, if you have the space and you wanted to take maybe 1 or 2 of the sextets, as I will call them, from the jazz music genre, okay, you could take one of these guys. Let's say you wanted to bring the blue along, and then place one of the, let's say, the Groundwork from the Ground Neutrals palette pans in here, or you could tag along the pink one and then throw in some Blooming Romance shades. Exactly, you're gonna have a ball. Alicia from the future here again. I also wanted to share that the pans themselves are magnetic, and I'll roll some footage here showing you that not only you can take out the actual smaller individual palettes, but you can either scoop the pans out as I am doing here with a spatula, and you can see the grooves through the center of the frame. That makes it easier to do. Or you can take many of your nail polish magnet ones, as I have, and use the round end because the rectangle I think is a little too strong, and that's how you can pop out the pan easier if you don't want to use a spatula as I did. And you could do whatever you like with the different finishes and the different shades. I did experiment and see if I can fit a groundwork pan into the Freedom palette pan, and unfortunately the groundwork pans are a little too large for these guys, and hopefully down the line Danessa will keep these dimensions for another Freedom palette so that we can just keep swapping around as we like. Perhaps she can make a Freedom palette that is or are the same dimensions here palette wise, but maybe the individual pans will be longer for complexion products. You know, I'm just putting different ideas out there. Nevertheless, both palettes are magnetic, and you can certainly just take out one of the eyeshadow palettes, plop down any of the groundwork, whether velvet pomade pans or the Shape and Fix, I think it's called, powder pans here on the magnetic base, and do as you like. But I wanted to quickly go on here and share that because I failed to realize that while I was filming the first part of the video. And if you're wondering, ooh, Alicia, I like that look, I did use the blues, and stay tuned as I will showcase how I got this look in an upcoming short. All right, see you back there. And you probably saw the footage run as I was speaking about the packaging and the design. I think this is exceptional for Danessa to have created an appropriately named Freedom palette, right? It gives you the space and the opportunity to mix and match as you like. You can use these pigments on face, eyes, and lips. Mostly people, I think, are using them for eyes, but we could get into the footage where I do apply some of these finishes on the cheeks, not only as blush. As you can see here, I have Unapologetic on with one of the many chrome formulas, 9 in this palette. So allow me to read the product description I pulled from Danessa's website. This palette combines versatility and portability with 18 highly pigmented color shifting shades in 9 brilliant finishes, delivering rich, vibrant hues on all skin tones. Its innovative, transforming packaging makes it a must-have all-in-one tool for eyes, cheeks, and lips, offering endless creative freedom from subtle to bold looks with a smooth, easy to blend formula and all day wear. Unpack, stack, and create your favorite combos on the go. Now, this was gifted to me, but it retails for $128. It is expensive. However, you are getting a lot of product, and you are getting a palette. You're basically getting a 2-for-1, where you can have the palette as it arrived in its large form, right? And I'll take this guy and just smack it in the middle so we can have the full presentation. Or you could take just the mirror off and stack as many of the mini palettes together as you like. So I think you are paying for what you get, not only for the design, and typically anything magnetic is more expensive because it is heavier. You're also getting a ton of different formulas in this palette. Now, I already swatched the shadows, but looking at the different formula descriptions and how each has their category and the shades it falls under, I'm like, oh no, I think I might have to do this again, which is fine, is absolutely fine. First, we have the Cream Chromes, a dynamic full coverage cream based chrome pigment. Wear them alone or build on top. We have Nirvana and Rejoice. Nirvana is from the what I refer to as the Autumn Rain section, and then we have Rejoice here from the pinks. Look how smooth that is, and applies beautifully well on the lids. Just has that wet slick look. I actually have Nirvana across my entire lid for this eye, and I found that I didn't need to go in with an Unapologetic, that soft satin in the Autumn section, where it blends out pretty well on its own. But let's move on to the soft satin mattes. Soft buildable mattes with a tonal shimmer pearl. We have Unapologetic, Unbound, Love, and Bliss. Unapologetic, Unbound here from the blues, Love, and Bliss. Bliss feels a little more wet than its soft satin matte counterparts, and you just have to be careful with how you press your brush in, lightly graze the pan so as to not imprint it as much as I did. So just be careful there. Next, we have a Slick Chrome, a wet look multi-chrome pigment powder, and in the shade Empowered from our blue section. And one of our beauty baes had mentioned that this kind of reminded her of the purple in La Vie en Rose, which is a lot drier because that palette's from like 2017, and the purple rain, something rain from Nocturnal Nirvana. This knocks it out of the park in terms of pickup, just in terms of smoothness, as you'll see in the demo. Incredibly saturated, but beautifully colored as well. Look at that shine, my goodness me. The Duochrome Crushed Sparklers, semi-translucent dual tone with a dimensional topper. And we have Rise, Fluid, and Euphoria. Where did I apply Rise? I might have applied Rise here on the inner part of this eye. I can't recall. Oh my gosh, I have to look at the footage. But these are lovely in that they have a nice color base, but compared to these look more wet in finish, where you definitely detect, I think, more of that sparkle factor from this formula. Now we've arrived at the Super Chromes. Multichrome Tricolor Shifting Pigment. Not as base color heavy, but you can definitely see the shift there with the light, and I especially like to apply those finishes on the inner corner, on the inner lower half, or even if you wanted it to be a little more low-key, you could just slap this on the entire lid, maybe apply some falsies, a lot of mascara, or maybe a wing liner. And although the color shift, as you see, is beautiful, I think great for someone who wants to keep it a little more low-key but still wants to show off the shifting, you know? Next, we have a Cushion Chrome Creamy Powder Super Shifter with an amplified pigment payoff. Now, surprisingly, this is my least favorite out of the 9, but it is manageable, where you have to make sure you flatten out those flakes in the formula so you could get that nice reflectivity and smooth finish on the lid. Because if you do have lid texture, I don't think the Cushion Chrome is best. You will probably have to be a little more light-handed, or reserve this formula for inner corner, or just somewhere else around the eye region that doesn't have as much movement as it could if you do on the lids. Maybe better on the brow bone, and as I said before, the inner corner, or you just use your finger and lightly tap on the center of your lid so you don't pick up as much. But ooh, isn't that lovely? I can't remember where I put this freaking shade. I think I applied it here on the center of my lid for this eye. And again, I had to work it a little bit to ensure that those pigments blended well and they didn't look chunky on my lid. And that is from the blue section here. You could probably see, maybe not, hard to tell in the pan, but it is the flakiest out of the 18. Can't count. And next we have the Halo Chromes Ethereal Ultra Dynamic Multi-Chrome Fairy Dust. Proud from the Harvest Rain palette, and Serenity from La Vie en Rose 10.0. And these are great not only for highlighting purposes on the eyes, but on the cheeks as well. I actually applied Proud here on my cheekbones, and despite how it appears here, the color shift, and let me grab what the color shift is because there is a description for it. Proud is a warm gold with a soft pink shift. So you're gonna see more of the warm gold here on the cheeks, which I think fantastic if you wanted to wear Proud as a cheek highlighter. And the way it applies, my goodness, just make sure you blend it out, but the formula itself is beautifully seamless and I think easy to blend on the skin. You don't have to fret over it looking chunky on the cheeks or abnormal at all. I think Danessa nailed the formula's versatility in being successful blended on the eyes as well as the cheeks. Heck, let me go in now with, let me see. This is a fun game. Memorize which color for under each formula category. I would like to apply the Super Chrome higher on the lip here. Isn't that pretty? Take note, when you apply these finishes on a lipstick or even on a gloss, it will have more of a burnished finish versus like a shinier reflective finish as it does on the eye. So that's just something to keep in mind. But if you wanted to play with that, you most certainly can. And just kind of spread it here, have it on the center of the lip, or just spread it on the entire lip to have a little bit of that color shift. Again, not as much shine, but I think fun to play with if you wanted to, you know, introduce a new color to the lipstick. We're almost there, friends. We have arrived at the Elastin Multi-Chrome. One shade under that formula, and it is released from the blue, and this is a semi-translucent holographic. You know what, let me give it a whole new section, because I gotta do this shade justice. This is a little more cushiony, and why it is the only Elastin Chrome in the palette. Again, here from the blue section, and you can even see that maybe it's a little softer than the Halo Chromes, right? Halo Chromes being Proud and Serenity here respectively. The Elastin has a little more give to it. It actually almost feels wet, but look at that beautiful translucent base, almost like a revamped formula from what we've seen in her like not her first Lightwork palette, but the first Lightwork palette that contained those 4 huge halo powders on the center. They have the same effect as these, but they're drier, whereas the Elastin as well as the Halo Chromes are a lot more, they have a lot more fluidity and finesse to the texture and are easier to blend and pick up with a brush, in my opinion. We have arrived at the last formula, Glass Sheen. This one really just, my goodness, when I applied this in the demo, this is from the pink section, we have Dance, a semi-transparent sparkler. It might not seem like anything on the swatch, but when you see me apply it on the eye, I was like, wait a minute, this is gorgeous. I love the shade itself. It reminds me actually of 2 shades from Mother, Lovelace from Divine Rose 1, and it was from Divine Rose 2. It started with an E, Euphoria maybe? That lavender, grayish, purple shade, my goodness, it does beautifully on the lids. So now that we've gone through all of the formulas, all of the swatches, let's roll over into this B-roll, which I should have queued up, but I am trying as fast as I can to not only record this video, but to edit it in like record time. I don't know how successful I will be, but all good to go. I'll try to do this by memory, but I don't know how successful I'll be. So if I'm saying something that doesn't really match what's going on in the footage, it will still be helpful nonetheless, but I'm sorry in advance. I started with the pinks and wanted to apply Serenity as a inner corner highlight as well as a lid highlight. And I think one of the standout characteristics of Lightwork 6 Freedom Palette is how easy these formulas are to pick up with a brush. They're not dry, they're not flaky, you're not going to experience any significant fallout. Maybe a little bit from Free, that is the cushion chrome with the flakier texture, but not with the Halo Chromes at least. I mean, these look wet on the skin, and that pink reflect comes through powerfully. You can see it not only on the inner corner but also on the lid, and I think that just makes it easier for, again, a user who is still treading the waters. They bought Freedom Palette but they're like, I don't know, man, this isn't me. I think you'll have fun with the Halo Chromes in terms of, yes, the easy pickup with a brush, but just how they are fairy-like and ethereal in nature. You could have that color shift, but it's not going to overwhelm the eye. But I don't know, man, the pink just is like in your face. And then I hopped into Dance, the Glass Sheen finish, and again, this was like my Lovelace, my Euphoria. How beautifully sparkled this appeared on the lids. Again, without feeling chunky or heavy. You could see how well, look how it adhered to my lid. It didn't look dry, and it went from brush to skin in a flash. And that's what I was most impressed by, because in the past we've had issues, or I'll just speak for myself, these dazzling formulas that had to be drier by nature to lend that reflectivity. Not this. I would love to see more glass sheens from Danessa. because my goodness, I slapped it on the other side, on the outer corner, bordering Serenity, and even just those two shadows alone, I could have stopped there, slapped on a black wing liner, some lashes, and call it a day. Then I decided to go into Joy, and Joy is one of the super chromes, and I decided, let's see here, to apply this on the inner corner of my other eye, and this had more of a coral pink shift in comparison to Serenity, but still fantastic pickup. It almost has like a neon quality. I think you can detect a little more warmth from Joy in terms of the color and how it is different from the Serenity shade. Serenity is a little more cooler pink. And then we had to go in with Rejoice, one of the cream chromes, and I decided to apply that on, let's see here, the outer part of my lid on my first eye. And again, the impeccable brush pickup, the fact that it can layer on successfully without the textures building on each other, without the textures looking heavy on the lids. And I decided to take all of Rejoice on the entire lid and basically covering up Dance, but it's fine, it's fine. I just wanted to do that to see the effect it would have on my lid texture, and it does not grab lid texture whatsoever. In fact, the entire look appears wet and shiny, and I think that's what Danessa had wanted the consumer to experience. If you change your mind mid-application, you're like, no, I want Rejoice instead of Dance, Serenity instead of Gleaming, you can make that switch in a flash. Now with the soft satins, I picked up Love and decided to carefully build this through the crease. And this is one of my favorite formulas from the Freedom palette, in that it is beautifully soft and just easy to move across the skin. Not quite velvet pomade in nature, but it does remind me of the velvet pomade in terms of ease of use. And I think that's what Danessa had in mind when creating this palette, to include formulas that are easy to blend, but just have nice movement on the skin, that they don't act as a typical matte shadow does, and they pair well with the other textures found in the palette. Could have went in with Love first instead of after, but I like that you can apply this on top of like the glass sheens and the super chromes, and it doesn't look dry and it doesn't look heavy on the lids. I applied Bliss in the same way on the other eye, and this, again, as I've mentioned during the swatches, Bliss has a much softer texture, so just be careful with the pressure with which you use to apply or place your brush in the pan, just so that the powder doesn't become too misshapen. But I took my time here in applying Bliss through the crease in the same manner that I did with Love on my other eye, and I do enjoy that sheen finish from the soft mattes, because I think forgivable with many lid textures, and Nice Set is not completely matte, but it does have a little bit of that pearlescent sheen left behind, and I think that helps with the blend as well. And my apologies, I completely forgot to take close-ups of my pink eyes, but stay tuned as I plan on filming a short using these same shades, and you'll be able to see them up close and personal. I'm such a dud. I took pictures, I did this, I did that, and when going into the blues and the purples, I'm like, I forgot to shoot the close-up of the final look. It happens. What are you gonna do? We've arrived at the blues, and I wanted to start in a similar fashion as I did with the pinks. Went in with Release on the inner corner first, and I love the Elastin formula. It is so elastic in terms of the great brush pickup. It appears as if it's glowing, okay? Like that luminescent algae under the sea, or in, I'm sorry, my biology is terrible. In warm water environments, like in the ponds and the lakes, where you have like that luminescent neon green underwater. That's what that color is doing on my eyeballs. And went in with the cushion chrome. Again, not so bad where you can't finesse the texture enough for those flakes to blend out completely, so you don't have those chunks on the lid. This is what I realized, that I forgot to film my close-ups. I had to keep this in. This is hilarious. I'm mortified because I try to be consistent with how I film these videos, and the moment I realized that I screwed up. But it's all right, Alicia. We'll continue. By the way, I was using Katie Jane Hughes Spectrum brush collab because These are pigments, and I didn't want to use my Japanese made brushes yet because I'm trying to keep those with, like, you know, the not so intense pigments that I have in my collection, regular eyeshadows, as I will probably have to wash those more often. So I resorted to using synthetic brushes because I will be washing these after the video is done. Hopping into fluid, one of the sparklers. This is sparkling, okay? And I apply this on the outer portion of one eye. Again, consistently, fantastic pickup. Despite its texture, I was able to slap it on successfully, and I could have left it as is and just blended out the edges softly and didn't have to go in with one of the soft satin mattes, but I decided to just for the sake of the demo so you could see all the shadows in action. But look how I was giving the cushion chrome a hard time. Okay, I was, but I enjoy how the sparkler texture found its way into the cushion chrome seamlessly, and there were no harsh lines of demarcation whatsoever. The second sparkler, Euphoria, I decided to then apply on the inner corner. Look at that. Despite its color, I thought it was interesting to introduce this shade to the mix. And listen, if you are intimidated by these shades, you could just do what I am here in the demo. Just slap them on color blocking style. Don't worry about it because the finishes themselves do the work for you, not only from a texture perspective, but also from a finish one that they're so pretty that no one cares. They're just gonna be like, ooh, shiny, and not even worry if you're putting a periwinkle on the inner corner or a turquoise on the outer corner. It will all come together. And now with the slick chrome, because I had to see this in action and I had space on my outer corner for the second eye. Look at that color payoff. It's ridiculous. And why I had to use a smaller brush because this would have gone out of hand quickly. In terms of the surface area this shadow covers instantly. I'm looking for another brush to possibly, which I think I do end up doing, blending out the edges, carrying it not only above the crease a little bit here, but through the lower lash line. And I take one of my blender brushes just to smooth the edges here. And the slick chrome is smooth enough where you don't necessarily have to go in with one of the soft satin mattes. You can just take your time in blending the edges of this formula and it will appear blurred. Now, if you were wearing this on the entire lid, I would suggest that you would go in with your fingertip or a shader brush to reintroduce a little bit of color that might have been lost on the lid if you were blending that color out solo. But it turned out well, and it is one heck of a shadow, just one heck of a color that you could just put on your entire lid and be done, and it will be show stopping. Unbound on the other eye, and I thought to just toss this through the crease, and it's a lovely color. It's like a periwinkle, but a navy periwinkle, if that makes any sense. Beautiful color, despite it being more cooler blue than the more turquoise color from, let me see here, a fluid. It all goes together well, and I think this would have been lovely on its own. Again, I'm slapping on everything for the sake of the demo, but I would have loved and would have loved to see Unbound solo. Just that smoked out cloudy blue color, not only through the crease but on the entire lid, and then taking a little bit of release on the center. Ooh, that would have been pretty too. So many ideas are emerging at this moment. My brain is exploding. Now, I didn't forget to take close-ups of the blue, and my goodness, the way these textures melt with each other, how they don't look dry, they just kind of work themselves out, and the look is intense. 100% the look is intense. I think you have to be strategic with how you decide to pair these shades together. You could have been a lot more minimalist and perhaps just applied Empowered, for instance, that royal purple along the lash line, and just keep it at that and not have it all over your lid and crease. You could do whatever you want, right? And especially when it comes to the blues and the purples, you could be, again, a little more light-handed with it or go all the way like I did here. And my look, giving you Aquarium Goddess. And now we have arrived to what could you have guessed otherwise, what I call again the Autumn Ring Sextet with these just beautiful colors. And look, when I saw Unapologetic and I swatched it for the first time, I was like, I gotta slap this on my face. Exactly what I did here, and allow me to pull up the shade description, a suede warm brown. I placed this on the hollows, toss it a little bit here on the apples of the cheeks. I love how this formula performs on the cheeks. It leaves behind a beautiful sheen. And because of the pearl content, I think in this formula, it makes it incredibly easy to blend using a smaller brush, because you probably have already deduced that these pans are small and might not fit a typically sized cheek brush, albeit there are several size cheek brushes that I have in my collection, many of which could, yes, fit into the small pan size. But if you are using a small brush like I do here in the demo, the soft satin moves easily across the skin without moving your foundation, without moving anything underneath it, and it just appears even and smooth. My goodness, this color right here, my terracotta dream. Are you kidding me? And I was a little impatient. I decided to go straight into Nirvana, one of the cream chromes, and just slap that on my entire lid. It's like an oil slick on the lid. And again, as I mentioned before with the texture, I could have just left it at that. Okay, put on Nirvana, used my fingertip to lightly diffuse the edges through my crease, put on some mascara, and be done. That's how easy you could take these looks. You don't have to go balls to the wall every time or feel inclined that you have to, because you have all of these beautiful textures and formulas at your disposal. You can just take advantage of what each formula can do solo and capitalize on it. Just have one shade at a time and be done. You know what I'm saying? On the other side, however, I think I applied Rise, one of the duochrome crushed sparklers, beautiful on the entire lid, and I just used a brush to better spread it across here evenly. Definitely has more of like that highlight effect because it looks like lime on the lid. Then we went into Higher, one of the super chromes, and that I placed on the inner corner, neon orange, virtually on for the highlight. Then went in with Proud. Proud has more of that gold shift. If I were to categorize this, I think Proud is more tangerine leaning, whereas, let me see here, Higher is more like neon. Does that make any sense? Or Proud is more coral orange and Higher is more of like that electric orange. Now the wild card shade Gleaming. Gleaming again is one of the super chromes. You might think, well, I don't want to apply green all over my lid, but that's okay. Instead, I tossed it here through my high arc crease just to have that green reflect on the eyes, and then I decided to place it on the lower inner corner. Look how the glow factor for Gleaming is outrageous, and I think it's so fun to rely on this alien green shade as an accent moment. You don't have to put it on your entire lid. If you're not sure, just put it on the inner corner. You don't even have to like place any other shadow on the lids. You could just place Gleaming on the inner corner and then put on some lashes or mascara, and that is it. I decided to apply Nirvana with a blender brush through my crease just to finish the edges of that eye, because I wanted to commit just to Nirvana and see how the formula moves by itself without me having to blend out the edges with a matte. But I definitely wanted to use Unapologetic for the crease on my other eye. The warm suede brown pairs perfectly with these shades. Even with the neon green in my crease here, it just looks, I just love how this looks. Again, the entire vibe of the Autumn Rain Sextet is right up my alley, and much like what I experienced with Love, Bliss, and Unbound, the other soft satin mattes in this palette, how beautifully soft it blends, how easily it moves across the skin, and how it works with the other textures here is just outstanding. And I did not forget to grab close-ups of Autumn Rain. Listen, this is my favorite. And I had to go in with Addiction Tokyo's Marron Terracotta, because with Unapologetic, are you kidding me? And I placed that on the waterline here, and look at these close-ups. Look how shiny my eyes are. And despite how many colors I applied, everything just works together. I don't know how, I don't know why. I don't ask questions. And my apologies for not mentioning, you could probably see it on my cheekbones here. I applied Proud as my highlight on top of the Unapologetic Soft Satin Matte. Beautiful. This is crazy. All right, Freedom Palette is out of control. And that is all the footage I have. I'll be back here again with more demos that you'll see on Shorts. But my goodness, this probably, because I was waiting for Izamea's Industrial 3.0 to release before the year's end. But if Izamea doesn't release anything and Mother doesn't release anything, because typically Pat would release a Mothership in August, it's already September. We might be getting a limited edition holiday palette from Natasha end of October. I don't know, man. They have to really climb high to the top to win against Lightwork 6. Because not only are they going up against just a several sensational formulas in one palette, but the innovative design and the fact that you can stack these however you like, that's what they're going up against. And that's something you can't beat. When you have convenience at your fingertips in this way, at such an extensive level, like, come on. This has to be one of the best releases of 2024. Easily. And I'm happy that Danessa went back to the drawing board and created something that would be used more in one's collection. I decluttered my Lightwork palettes. I did, because it was a lot to use at one time. And if I wanted to bring something along, I do have the mini, right? I love that palette because of the formulas included and how easy it is to travel with. But now that we have this, if I just wanted to bring Autumn Rain along, okay, I could just take this sucker out, slap on the mirror, call it a day, and just bring this and have this as my blush and have Proud as my highlighter. Because it might look gold. It looks gold. Ooh, did you see that? Okay, here we go, lighting effects. In like that cloudy type of lighting, you get more of that orange neon shift, right? But with regular light, you're gonna get more of the gold. So if you were right in front of me, you'll probably pick up more of the orange, right? Instead of the gold shift. But that is the beauty about these formulas. Depending on the light source will determine the effect that these pigments present. Isn't that fun? It's like a magic show. So that is it, family. Again, a huge thank you to my subscriber who was beyond generous in gifting me this palette in order to review it for you friends. And I just wanted to take the time and say thank you for your patience and understanding in me not buying so much this year, but still managing to watch my videos and to support me in any way you can, even if it's just liking the video, leaving behind a comment, messaging me on Instagram, saying how much my reviews have helped. I tremendously appreciate all of it. And I cannot wait to dive back into Lightwork 6 again. Definitely will create more content for Shorts because we gotta get more of these looks on the face. And I will see you in those comments. If you have made it this far, please consider liking this video. Maybe consider subscribing to see more of my content. And stay tuned for more. We are into the holiday season. So many limited edition, this and that is releasing already. I'm trying to hold back. I did see that Dior highlighter palette. I want it. With that said, take care and I'll see you again soon.